All right, good evening. We will now call this meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation. Firefighter Alex Fritz with our Homewood Fire Department has agreed to give this, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all will please stand. Come forward.
If everybody would please bow their head. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight thankful for the compassion, grace, and kindness that you shine upon us. We come to you tonight thankful for all of the blessings that you bestow upon each and every one of us. We come to you tonight humbled to our knees for the act of compassion by sending your only Son, Jesus Christ, to die on the cross for our sins, an act of compassion, grace, and kindness that we will never be worthy of or will ever be able to repay. Lord, we ask that you tonight be in the hearts and mind of the Mayor, Scott McBrayer, and all the men and women of the Homewood City Council. We ask that you keep a watchful eye over the men and women of the Homewood Police Department and of my brothers and sisters of the Homewood Fire Department. Keep them safe for the remainder of their shift and be with their friends and families in their absence. Lord, we ask that you continue to bless the great city of Homewood and all of those that make up the community and all of those who will visit this great community in the days to come. Lord, we ask that you be with the leaders of the world, especially our President, Donald J. Trump. In your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Firefighter Fritz, thank you so much, sir. Ms. Salter, if you would call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney?
Here.
Mr. Thames? Mr. Higginbotham?
Here.
Mr. Wolverton?
Here.
Mr. McCluskey? Mr. Jones? Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Wyatt?
Here.
Mrs. Andress? Here. Mr. Wright?
Here.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Here. We have a quorum of 8. We will move on to the reading of the minutes from the council meeting of June 26, 2017. Council members received those minutes, and the chair would welcome a motion for dispensing of the reading and approval of said minutes.
So moved.
All right. We have a motion from Mrs. Smith, a second from Mr. Wright. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is passed unanimously. We'll move on to board vacancies. We have, I understand, an Arts Council vacancy. Is that correct, Ms. Andress?
Do we know, Melody, have we gotten situated with Ms. Litzy or Mike? Do you know the Ward 2 and at-large? We have a confusing situation with Ward 2 and at-large.
The at-large, we don't need to re-announce right now because we have 2 people in that. We just need to re-announce Ward 2. Because it closed today, Ward 2.
Ward 2 open, but I thought that's what we were trying to figure out, but she's going to move from at-large.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If I might. I have spoken with Ms. Litzy about it previously, and she was going to speak with the at-large member who had expressed, whom they had tried to just move to Ward 2 internally. And indicated to her that if that person wanted to apply, I didn't know of anyone else who would apply, and they could be in Ward 2, and she was going to speak with her. I tried to reach out to Diane today, and I did not hear back. So it's my intent tonight just to reopen it for an additional 2 weeks in hopes that we can get this resolved by then, one way or the other. Anyway, so that's where we are. We received no applications.
So you would request that we reopen it for 2
I do,
weeks?
Mr. Chairman. I would request that we reopen it for an additional 2 weeks.
Okay, Mr. Kendrick, that doesn't require a motion. We'll just reopen it for 2 more weeks. Okay.
And then, Melody, do we need to do, you had the other 2, Ms. Litzy and Ms. Johnson.
Yes, if you're ready to make it if somebody's ready to make an appointment today, we had 1 applicant for Ward 3, 1 applicant for Ward 4 on the Arts Council.
And the applicant from Ward 4 is the yes, yeah, okay, yeah. Exactly. So I'll let you.
That would be her second. This will get her coming up second term, Ms. Litzy in Ward 4.
We need your microphone.
Okay, and then I would make a motion that we reappoint Diane Litzy to the Ward 4 position on the Homewood Arts Council.
Second.
All right, motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. Wyatt. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? If you'll let Ms. Litzy know. And Ward,
Ward 3, okay.
Ward 3's not present, so
Can I nominate?
you
Or
really can.
you sure? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I would like to nominate. Ward 3, dudes. Yeah, exactly.
We're going old school.
Be careful, I may ask you to do that.
I would like to nominate Hannah Johnson from Ward 3 for the position.
And I would second that nomination.
All right, motion from Ms. Andrews, second from Ms. Smith. Now, who is, I'm sorry, help me.
Hannah Johnson. So
Hannah Johnson.
she's
Okay,
in Ward 3
good.
in Edgewood.
All right, any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And if we'll let both individuals know that they are approved, I would appreciate that. Are there any other appointments tonight that we need to deal with? There being none, let me add quite a few items to the agenda. So we're going to amend the agenda tonight, so bear with me just a minute. These are consent agenda items. Number 1, 200517, request for consideration for a variance to the sign ordinance at 1 Lakeshore Parkway, requested by Dr. Jordan Vaughn, Greg Cobb, the BEZ Department. And then 180617, request for consideration of discussion on developing sinkhole in the vicinity of Berry Road and Hickory Knoll Apartments, requested by Charles Strain and Greg Cobb with our BEZ Department. So those are the 2 consent agenda items. Old agenda items, I'm going to add this, but also explain something when we get to it. 230617, request to consider Mayfair Triangle, requested by Jennifer Andrus. And then Finance Committee 160617, request for consideration of declaring the following surplus property: 2006 Trailblazer, last 6 of the VIN, 220508, 2002 Trailblazer, last 6 312431, 2002 Taurus Wagon, 144053, 2002 Dodge Ram, 237802, requested by Gordon James, our Fleet Maintenance Superintendent. 250617, request to consider budget amendments requested by Debbie Fout, our Library Director, and Melody Salter, our Finance Director. The following are new business committee referral agenda items. 090717, request for presentation by Chamber of Commerce, requested by Alex Wyatt and our Special Issues Committee. 100717, request for consideration of a variance to the sign ordinance at 1745 Oxmoor Road and to set a public hearing for same, requested by Ryan Stewart and Greg Cobb, our BEZ Department. This is Special Issues Committee, assigned to Special Issues. 110717, request for update on new public safety construction project, requested by Alex Wyatt, assigned to our Finance Committee. 120717, request to accept dedication of road at Edgewood Place. Eric Rogers and Vanessa McGrath with BEZs, also an assignment to Special Issues. And finally, 130717, a request to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with In-Time, that's one word, INTIME, staffing for contract labor work in city. And that is it. The chair would welcome a motion for approval of the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gwaltney, second by Mr. White. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that is approved. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Chair would welcome a motion for approval.
So moved.
Let me get this second. Motion by Mr. White, Mr. White, second by Mr. Wolverton. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. At this point, we'll take things out of order. 230617, the request to consider a Mayfair Triangle by Jennifer Andrus. Because we already have a bid in place for a contract, at this point, upon advice of attorney, all we need is a reaffirmation of said bid. So, Chair would welcome a motion and a second for such.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Andrews, second from Ms.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sorry. We're just saying this is what we want to do. We're just reaffirming that this is the action we want to take.
Yes.
Since the contract already
Would you tell them that, Mr. Kendall?
Yes, ma'am. The configuration is in the bid.
Right. So we're
Specification.
just saying we're going to go forward with the project.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will second Ms. Anderson's motion.
All right, all in favor, well, is there any further final discussion on this item? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That handles that. Now we will move on to the old business agenda as listed. 080617, public hearing set for tonight at 6 p.m. for consideration to review changes to Appendix A, zoning ordinance, Article 2, definitions, Article 4, district uses in Section K, C1, office building district, requested by Vanessa McGrath. And I think we all have a copy of this, don't we?
You should.
Okay, and we'll start with, before you speak, we'll start with a report from Planning and Development.
Mr. White.
Mr. Wright, do you have a report?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Wyatt, okay. Y'all need to be a little concerned about my hearing getting progressively worse, but go ahead.
The Planning and Development Committee met June 19th, 2017, and voted 4-0 to send out to council without recommendation pending the public hearing. The motion was made by Councilor Jones and seconded by myself.
All right, thank you, sir, and we will open this public hearing. Now, Ms. McGrath.
Yes, sir. This has been an issue that I've held a couple of years now, how to handle these personal fitness studios, Pilates, yoga type studios. Where do they fit into our zoning? It came to a head with a rezoning on Oxmoor Road, adjacent to Mayfield. And met out, the property owner asked to rezone to C2, which allows for gymnasiums, but, gyms, but it doesn't really state these kind of studio locations. The neighbors were not in favor of rezoning to C2, fearing what else in C2 could be allowed, and requested that I look at maybe addressing this fitness studio item that we have. So I came up with the definition of personal fitness studio being a facility for the purpose of physical fitness, exercise, and/or weight control, where clients are under the direction of fitness instructors and/or personal trainers. Typically, activities shall include, among others, yoga, Pilates, aerobics, and other related activities. And I wanted to emphasize that all activities shall be conducted entirely within an enclosed building, so that it's kept inside, keeping it more in line with the office business district intent. Then I added the personal fitness studio to the district, the permitted uses within office business district of C1.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. McGrath?
I don't have a question, but I did receive texts and emails from some of the residents of Mayfair Circle who are adjacent to that location, and I think they were all satisfied with the changes in the zoning to require. I think they were happy with that. They were much more concerned about it changing to C2. So I think this satisfies their concerns.
All right, anyone else? Thank you, Ms. McGrath.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this particular matter? All right. If you will, as you approach, please sign in first. And then when you get to the microphone, state your name and address.
Thomas M. Hubbard, 520 Mayfair Circle. As Ms. McGrath said, we are in favor of the C1 modifications. We were objecting to the C2 deal. It's all a quality of life issue for us of what can happen under C2 at some later date. we would appreciate you agreeing to modify it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who'd like to speak to this? All right, there being no one else, we will close this public hearing and welcome comments from any other council members. If there are none, Mr. Kendrick.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. This is an ordinance to amend the provisions of Article 2 entitled Definitions to add the definition of personal fitness studio and to amend Section K entitled C1 Office Building District of the City of Homewood Zoning Ordinance. Be ordained by the City Council as follows, that the definitions section of Article 2 is amended to include the definition of a personal fitness studio, and Ms. McGrath read that, and I can certainly read it again, but she sufficiently defined the definition that is to be added to the definition section. Section 2, that under Section K entitled C1 Office Building District of Article 4 entitled District Uses of the Zoning Ordinance, Section subparagraph 2 is amended to include a permitted use is the personal fitness studio, which is defined above. Section 3, that all of the regulations of that district are remain full force and effect. Section 3, that all of the provisions of the zoning ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. Section 4, if any part of provision or declared to be unconstitutional by a court of competent jurisdiction, all other parts of provisions not affected thereby shall remain in full force and effect. Section 5, the ordinance becomes effective immediately upon its adoption by the City Council and approval by the mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent. Second. Motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. Higginbotham. If you would please, Ms. Salter, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So this will be ordinance 2663. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for adoption.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Wright, second from Mr. Gwaltney. Roll call, Ms. Salter.
Yes. Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yeah.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes. So 2663 is passed unanimously. We will move on to 210617, public hearing set for tonight for consideration for a variance to the sign ordinance at 808 Green Springs Highway, requested by Brenda Daniel, Greg Cobb, our BEZ department. We'll start with a report from Special Issues.
We met at 4:30 this afternoon, and we voted to send out this to the council without recommendation pending the public hearing right now. Mr. Gwaltney made that motion, Ms. Andress seconded it, and we voted 4-0 to send that out to the council tonight.
All right, thank you very much. We will open this public hearing and begin with Mr. Cobb.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a variance to the size of the sign. It's only one attached sign, and it's over our allowable size limit
There it is.
By
by about 80 feet. Is that right? 80 square feet. Right.
all right,
There it is on the screen.
great, good.
This is on like the old Measures building that backs off Green Springs, next door to Firehouse Subs.
All right, Mr. Daniel, we know we heard from you earlier, but if you'll introduce yourself in the microphone.
West Daniel Signs. This is a channel lit letter sign, LED, plastic face. They've got a storefront of 49 foot 6 inches, and the sign's only 33 feet 5 inches wide. It is 30 inches high, the letters, and the logo was 48 inches. Any questions?
Any questions? There being none. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this item? Y'all are welcome to be seated.
Can we clarify the square footage? I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, Mr. Daniel, back to the square foot. I'm sorry.
Mr.
Mr. Gwaltney asked for, he has Bruce Limbaugh's disease.
The total square footage is 134 square feet.
Is that mic on? It doesn't seem like that mic on the,
It's on.
oh, it is, okay.
Twist it, there you go.
Okay, there we go.
134 square feet
Total.
total.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Daniel? Thank y'all very much, appreciate it.
Real quick, sorry. Clarify for the council, what makes that number go up is that the letters aren't that tall, but the round part is, and we use the highest. We would take the total width times total height, so we turn it into a rectangle. So if you looked at the letters and one number and the circle is different, then it reduces that number. It's just the way we measure signs.
And just to clarify too, we said it's so far removed from the roadway that's why most of the signs on those other businesses are similar.
All of them are over
sizes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Y'all can have a seat. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this matter? All right, there being none, we will close this public hearing. Welcome any comments from the council. There being none, Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval of this resolution.
I would move to approve.
Motion from Mrs. Smith.
Second.
Second from Mrs. Andrus. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that is 8-0 for Resolution 17-109. We'll move on to 2606-17, public hearing set for tonight to declare property located at 36 Shadow Lane Drive a public nuisance due to a violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750, excessive growth, requested by Scott Cook, our Code Enforcement Public Works, and we will open the public hearing. Mr. Cook.
All right. I have gotten several complaints on this property in the past several months. As you can see by the picture, it's still grown up. It's owned by a Inez Jessie, listed at the same address. Found that she was deceased. After posting the property, and even up until today, I have not received any correspondence, phone calls, or anybody that may own the property or have received the letters. And so, as the property is what you see the pictures right there in front of you.
Whose car is that in the driveway?
Apparently it belongs to her. I'm having the VIN number run now.
Oh, do y'all not have the pictures?
I do not have the picture.
Here. It's pretty, I think it meets the definition.
Yes. It definitely meets the definition. The growth is up to the top of the windows. Okay. Anyone that'd like to see it's welcome to.
There's a
Car
there?
Yes.
Vehicles there, but nobody lives there?
Nobody lives there, and I'm having the vehicle VIN number run right now, but I think the tag on it's dated like, expired in like 15, something like that.
Do we know how long she's been deceased?
I don't have it with me. Yeah. I found the obituary.
Any other questions of Mr. Cook? All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this matter? If there is not, we will close this public hearing. Chair would welcome any comments from the council.
I would make a motion to declare the property a nuisance.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Smith, second from Mr. Higginbotham. Yes, Mr. Wolverton, certainly.
So I don't know if it's in an estate or what, or who owns rights to the property. Does that effectively put a lien against the property if it was to be sold?
Mr. Kendrick?
It will after they cut the grass and they come back with you in the building and adopt a resolution to file in probate court. So this action just allows the city to go on the property.
Clean it up.
Clean it up.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just stuck feeling like nobody owns the property right now. And I don't. How long have you? What's that?
Somebody owns it.
Well, she's deceased, right?
Yes.
Well, she may have relatives that.
Right.
Or she may not.
How long have we been, I guess, trying to get in touch with Ken or?
Well, we post the property.
Right.
And then we send a registered letter out to wherever the tax notice goes, which is still in
the
her
property.
name. Yeah. And that's the best we can do.
That's all we can do.
Yeah. Could not find any other way
to track anybody down. Okay.
I mean, at some point, there will be
somebody will come after it, yeah.
Well, there'll be a notice in a publication, and either someone will respond or they won't. I mean, this is, I understand your frustration, Mr. Wolverton, I really do, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that, Mr. Chairman. I understand where Mr. Wolverton's coming from, and but ultimately, if we don't handle these properties this way, they'll never, ever be addressed.
Right, absolutely.
It's really the only way we can, so.
Should be a big lien, right?
However much it costs to.
Someone will get a heck of a
You've seen how tall those weeds are, so.
Wouldn't be a lien if they clean up the
I did close the public hearing, so Chair would welcome a well, we got that.
Yes,
Okay.
I would move.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is unanimous. Resolution 17-110 We'll move on to 270617. Public hearing set for tonight. Consider declaring the property located at 618 Hamball Avenue a public nuisance due to a violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750, excessive growth. Scott Cook, our code enforcement public works, will open the public hearing. Mr. Cook, go.
Yes, sir. Shortly after the property was posted and notice was sent out, the front yard was cut. That's kind of been the norm in the past. As it turns out, no one has been addressing the backyard. This afternoon, about 3 o'clock this afternoon, the owner, Mr. Markham, contacted me by phone, and it was under the assumption that the person that had been mowing the front yard for him also was doing the backyard. I'm told by neighbors and even by Mr. Markham that the house is vacant and has been vacant for some time. He has asked me to ask y'all for more time to get the property in compliance. I told him that that wasn't my position, that he needed to have someone here tonight, that was y'all's decision, but that would pass that on to him.
Is there anyone here? Mr. Are you Mr. Markham? Well, come forward, please. Mr. Cook, stand aside, please. Thank you. Your name and, yes, please sign in, yes.
That's fine.
It's okay. We just want to know where you live.
That is.
Please speak into the microphone.
Yeah, he just asked.
Your name is?
My name is Micah Markham. I'm Reggie Markham's brother, the property owner.
Okay.
You know, he just asked me if I would just share with you guys of why this backyard has become that way. He's been taking care of my mom and dad for years, and they're both now deceased, and he's trying to close out things with them, and he plans on moving back into this home. So it's just, you know, he loves this home. He's owned it since 1970, and anyway, it's just kind of got out of hand. He did think the guy was cleaning up the backyard. He just doesn't go there that often because the man that's been cleaning the yard was his sort of go-to guy, you know. So anyway, he just asked if any way possible if he could get an extension on it. He's got someone he's already got in place or already hired.
All right, well, good.
Cleaned up the backyard.
Any other council questions?
I have a question. Approximately how long do you think that'll take?
The man that he's hired to do it's pretty extensive too. He thinks he can get to it next week. But he said if he could just get a couple of weeks, maybe just in case it starts raining again, you know.
If we carried this over to our next meeting, which would be in a few weeks.
24th.
24th.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So he should have it done by then. Today's the 10th, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, he should have it done by then.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this matter? If there's not, we will close this public hearing, and we will carry this over, okay, for 2 weeks. Please let your brother know that we're being a little flexible here, but one time. Okay. All right, 280617, excuse me, public hearing for tonight to consider declaring the property located at 1705 26th Avenue South a public nuisance due to a violation of ordinances 1910 and 1750, excessive growth. Scott Cook, our code enforcement public works, we will open the public hearing. Excuse me, Mr. Cook.
Okay. Property was posted, and shortly after the property was posted, notice went out. The property owner, I assume, did some work in the front yard, trimming shrubbery and mowing grass. Again, ignored the backyard. The property owner is Mamoon El-Thatar at the same address. It has been vacant for some time. We have had numerous complaints on this in the past. Mr. El-Thatar left me a voicemail last week, and I returned it and left him a voicemail. I went by this morning to take pictures that you see there today, and there was a Mr. Sterling there who lives in Rosedale that said he was going to be cleaning up the property. I did not make it by there this afternoon to see what all had been done, but another neighbor told me there was quite a bit of stuff that had been put out the street to be picked up. I believe the property owner is here tonight.
All right, thank you. Is the property owner present tonight? Please come forward and sign in first, if you will. Mr. Cook, are these pictures today or this morning?
Before somebody came out to clean.
Let me see those. Sir, if you'll speak into the microphone, introduce yourself. And
Hi there. My name is Mamoon Altahir, and what happened that my neighbor's tree fell in the backyard, okay, and they cut it sort of like let it sit there. I did everything on the front, but the back was through.
Yes, sir.
Just that tree there was preventing him from even doing any more, okay, and he has someone who was supposed to cut it. Unfortunately, this morning he cut all the trees and removed all the stuff there, okay? And maybe there are a lot of debris and some things there which I'm working on taking it. So if you see it today, it will be amazing. All this is completely different, okay? And we move everything on the road, okay? So maybe within a week or two, nothing will be there at all, you know.
yes, sir. So if I'm to understand you, the backyard is now cut?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
What happened, the tree, it was that tree?
Yes, I saw the picture.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the tree, the one which was preventing from doing that portion, just that portion of the backyard. Now the tree is completely moved out.
Okay.
And everything is moved out, and also I'm gonna do a lot of extra things for the backyard.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Has all the garbage been removed?
Not
The
yet.
trash been removed? Because there's
Trash.
pictures of like, looks like broken furniture, and I'm not sure what all that is.
Oh, okay, these ones here, I was trying to move the plug inside because of the tree, okay? So I was taking this to the junkyard.
Okay,
I'm gonna make money out of it, so I'm moving it
okay,
after that.
okay.
So the tree was in your way,
Right, yes, nothing.
Okay,
No, I
got
understand.
it.
We understand.
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions?
I have one.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Mr. Elthier, thank you for coming to talk about it. I've received numerous complaints about this property as well since I represent Ward 1. The first being the car that was parked in the street that had 4 flat tires, and there's also a car in the side yard that is sitting.
I moved the car.
Yeah, I noticed it moved around back, and one of your neighbors was here earlier and mentioned it to me as well. Are you planning to, I mean, is this a one-time thing, or are you going to actually maintain the property going forward?
I will maintain it because I'm moving in here.
I'm sorry?
I will.
Okay.
Maintain it, absolutely, no problem at all.
Good deal. Thank you.
And the problem, I'm going to be honest with you, the complaint is from someone who was using my backyard for gardening. And he was using it for 12 years, okay? And then he started bad mouthing me, so I stopped him, okay? And from that time, from that day, he's just on my back. And to be honest with you, I mean, if you look at around the area, right in front of my house, there's a car right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely broken wind, whatever, you know, but, and as you know, almost 50% of the people who live in Rosedale are relatives, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of like, but he's against me, honest. And I did talk to him before about that. And you know what happened when I last week when when was it? 3 days ago when I was moving the Carve Victoria it was the tow dolly was in the church parking. Okay, it was straight from my driveway. Okay, he came to me and said, "You're not supposed to do this because it's a church property." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm just all I was doing is strapping the car and things." He said, "No, you're not supposed to do this." And I told him to go ahead and call the police. Okay, but he wasn't. Of course, he was not. He got nothing to do with. He wasn't even part of the church, but he's the one who was making all this problems for me. So it's somebody who's making the complaints.
Gotcha.
And I know that.
Thank you for that info. I appreciate it.
Well, that is valuable information, but again,
I know.
we can't legislate complaints between two neighbors.
I'm not, in no way, I'm taking this as excuse, okay? If all people are thieves, cannot steal because of thieves. No, if I'm
We
wrong,
understand.
I'm wrong, and I will do my best to clear myself, okay?
Yes. I mean, we appreciate the improvements, but we, as a council, have concerns about going forward. And
Okay.
So
Absolutely.
please keep that in mind.
Okay.
Any other questions? Good. All right. Yes, Mr. Cook, before you speak, is there anyone else here who wants to speak to this matter? Go ahead, Mr. Cook, now.
The car that you were speaking of at the street, when it was addressed several weeks ago, it was apparently somehow left that street and went and got put up in the backyard. That is no longer there. There is a car that is off the road up by the house that has an expired tag that looks like it has not moved in quite some time. But again, we're not here tonight to address that.
No. All right, we will close this public hearing and ask if any council members have any other questions. So therefore, at this point, motion to, what is your recommendation, Mr. Cook?
Well, I haven't been out there to look to see if it's even in compliance.
Mr. President.
Recommendation would be let
Why
know.
don't you, how much longer is the meeting gonna last? Go look, come back and report.
Or we can
Just carry it over.
Can we do the same thing that we did for the previous?
There's no need to carry it over. He can run, check it real quick, they'll be right back and make a report.
Well, he did say that he wasn't able to clear up the garbage yet because he just got the tree cleared out of the yard.
Yeah, there's still some work to be done.
Then drop it if that's what you believe.
No, I think we should do exactly what we did for the previous homeowner and extend us 2 weeks and give you 2 weeks to come into full compliance.
Right.
And at that point, if it's not addressed, then we will have to declare the property a nuisance.
Okay,
All
absolutely.
right, so we will carry this over. Moving on, thank you, 320617. Thank you, Mayor. I was
Yeah.
with you. No, I was with you, but anyway, 320617, public hearing set for tonight. To consider declaring the property located at 1575 Valley View Circle a public nuisance due to ordinances 1910 and 1750, excessive growth. Scott Cook, our Code Enforcement Public Works, again, open the public hearing. Go, Mr. Cook.
Okay, again, we got several complaints on this one. The tax notice goes to John Reeves at 306 Longview Drive in Vestavia Hills. Noted the property was posted and notices were sent to the property owner as well as the occupant of the house. From that time, which has been several weeks ago, nothing at all has been done on the backyard again to make any type of to abate the issue, and I have not been contacted by property owner or occupant.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions of Mr. Cook? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this particular matter? Please come forward. First of all, sign in, then state your name and address. And you are?
I'm Robert McIntyre Stokes, and I live at 1575 Valley View Circle.
Okay.
I just moved in on June 19th. I started working in Birmingham. I'm actually not on the lease. I have 2 roommates that are on the lease and a third that lives in Hattiesburg, Mississippi now. I'm subleasing his room. I moved in 2 weeks ago, and that was the first thing I noticed was how horrible the backyard was. I did cut the front yard with a weed eater about 2 weeks ago, but the front yard's not the issue. I mean, it's absolutely a nuisance, and it's horrible. I've never even met the property owner. I will do everything that I can do. I've got a weed eater coming tomorrow. I've got a weed eater with a cutter blade on it. I mean, it's pretty thick stalks back there. I've looked at it, but I didn't receive any notice of this because my roommates didn't let me know about it. They're not here, but I am. I think it was May 24th is when we got the initial notice, because I got that in the letter that I found in the mail yesterday about the hearing today. So I'm here. I'll do whatever I can do. I'll clear it up to where it's livable. There are, I think, few pine trees down. The landowner cleared up the backyard, and that kind of opened it up for growth. But I'll fix it up myself, or we'll get some money together between the roommates to do what we can do. But it is a nuisance.
My number one request would be that y'all check your mail.
I didn't start receiving mail there until, I think it was last Friday, I changed my mail address because I need to get mail at my house, and yes, sir, I agree.
I understand. If you live at a residence and there's a mailbox out front, please check your mail.
And I will do that from now on because I can't count on them to do it. No, I know the two guys. They've been working for a year.
I'm not making a sale here, folks. Check your mail.
I'm getting the weed eaters from one of their dads, so I don't know if they can help me, but we've talked to True Green, and they said they charge us $500 to clean it up and then continue to maintain it for I don't know how many months.
I understand.
And I'll do that if I need to do that because it's got to get fixed, and I don't want to be sitting here coming and seeing y'all on bad terms for months on end and getting cited for things that shouldn't be happening to a 22-year-old. Need to maintain my own yard, and whatever y'all want to decide I need to do, I have to work every day of the week. I'll be back there cutting on it.
I have great faith that your parents raised you well, based on what you just said. So, having said that, are there any other council members?
Well, I just wanted to admire you for throwing your buddies under the bus like that. So,
they didn't come here because one of them has a birthday dinner, and I don't know what the other one's doing. So, sorry.
Mr. Wright, you are correct. Not many would do that.
I got my hat in my hand, and
That's right.
he did. No, Mayor, I agree. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak to this matter? Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to ask any other questions?
Admire your honesty as well.
I've never met the landowner, like I said, and I'm not under the impression that he's ever going to do anything about it, so it's up to us. So.
I think we can do the same as we've done for the previous two owners. We'll give y'all a couple weeks to get it cleaned up.
2 weeks until the next council meeting? Okay.
Yes, the next council meeting is 6 p.m., not 6:30.
Okay.
At, in this same locale, July 24th.
Yeah. Right, and I don't even know how far our property goes. I'm guessing it goes all the way to the road there. There's a fence kind of cutting it off.
He can definitely tell.
We're going to do, so we finish, we're going to do whatever Mr. Cook recommends. If he tells us it clears, then it clears.
Right.
If he tells us it doesn't, y'all got a big old fine coming.
Fair enough.
So.
Fair enough. Good. We deserve it. Right. I called you today. I didn't leave a voicemail, but it was early this morning. You didn't answer, and so I just said I'll show up tonight. So.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
we
so
will move on to the next
hopefully
item.
not.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank y'all very much.
He's the person. It's great. All right, 330617, public hearing set for tonight for consideration of a variance to the sign ordinance at 2010 Brookwood Medical Center Drive, requested by Sandy Getty, Greg Cobb, our BEZ department. Special issues. We'll start with a report from special issues. Ms. Smith.
Yes, the Special Issues Committee met at 4:30, and we voted to send this item out without recommendation pending the public hearing tonight. The motion was made by Mr. Higginbotham and seconded by Mr. Gwaltney, and we voted 4-0 to send that out to the council tonight.
Great, thank you. We open the public hearing. Go, Mr. Cobb.
Okay. Basically, Brookwood Hospital is rebranding. They're redoing all their signs, and they have a lot of them. Which a lot of them are, some of them are wayfinding signs. You know, like for instance, it says emergency room, it says different things. But at that hospital, without them, you never know where you were anyway. But due to that, the variance request is they're keeping the same number of signs. They're changing them all. And they've taken some of them that were on posts and turned them into monuments, which we like. And so it's going to be multiple signs and areas. I just gave Mr. Kendrick a package, quite a few of them.
Yeah.
I think we had some to go up there on the screen, but maybe not.
I saw.
No.
No.
Okay.
He didn't get the email then.
Okay.
Because they emailed him and he.
Brian?
It's like the Wizard of Oz. Speaking from the great beyond.
Either the wall is speaking or there we go. Look closely.
It's kind of hard to see, but we get it.
Can you zoom in on that?
There we go.
Thank you.
There we go.
The top one is what is existing. The bottom one is what will be replaced.
Yes.
That's good.
Now, hopefully everyone can see the differences in those two. All right. Thank you. Any questions from council members?
No, but I would like to make a point.
Okay,
I think
Ms.
it's
Smith,
good to know
please.
that the signs are not, the signs, other than changing the style, are not changing in number or changing in size. They're basically all going to be just replacing what is existing, except for the monument signs, which I'm thrilled about. And they will all be contained on the hospital campus. They're not out on our public
Right.
streets. It's all on the hospital campus.
We're
too.
not adding signs, we're
Right.
just replacing.
Replacing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, important to note.
Anyone else want to speak to this item? There being none, anyone will close the public hearing. Any other comments by council? There being none, Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Gwaltney, second from Mrs. Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and any opposed? And that is unanimous.
And
And
Mr. President, I have to abstain.
Okay, we have an abstention from Mr. Wyatt, and that is, I don't know, I have lost this, that is
111.
111, thank you very much, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have two abstentions. We have 6-4 and 2 abstentions.
Who was the second
Not
one?
against. Mr. Wolverton.
Okay.
Mr. Wolverton and Mr. Wyatt.
All right. Thank you very much, bye-bye. We'll move on to 160617, request for consideration of declaring the following surplus property: 06 Trailblazer, VIN 220508, 02 Trailblazer, VIN 312431, 02 Taurus Wagon, VIN 144053, 02 Dodge Ram, VIN 237802, requested by Gordon James. Our Fleet Maintenance Superintendent report from Finance, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, the Finance Committee met at 5, and we voted 3-0 to approve declaring this property as said surplus, and motion was made by Mr. Higginbotham, seconded by Mr. Wright. We voted 3-0.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith. If there are no comments or questions from my council members, Mr. Kendrick, first reading.
It's an ordinance to dispose of surplus municipal property, hereby established and declared that the following described personal property of the city is no longer needed for public or municipal purposes. Mr. Limbaugh very adequately described the 4 vehicles. Section 2, that the mayor is authorized and directed to dispose of the property by public auction to the highest bid.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for unanimous consent.
So moved.
Motion for Ms. Smith, second for Mr. Wyatt. Roll call, Ms. Salter.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Higginbotham? Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes, so this will be ordinance 2664. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for adoption. Motion from Mr. Higginbotham, second from
Second.
Mr. Wright. All right, roll call.
Mr. Gwaltney?
Yes,
Mr. Higginbotham?
Yes.
Mr. Wolverton?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Andress?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
And Mr. Limbaugh?
Yes, so 2664 is adopted unanimously. We move on to 250617. Request to consider budget amendments requested by Debbie Fout, our library director, and Melody Salter, our finance director. We'll begin with a report and therefore motion from finance.
Yes, we met earlier and voted 3-0, sorry, to approve the budget amendments, and we did have to make one slight adjustment because we realized we needed some money to pay for some parks bills that needed to be done. So we would like to move to approve all 4 of the budget amendments as proposed by Ms. Salter. We voted 3-0. Mr. Wright made the motion, Mr. Higginbotham seconded.
All right, good. We will take this motion from finance, and if there are no other discussion, welcome a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, this is Resolution 17-112, and it is passed unanimously. Committee referral agenda. Chair would welcome a motion and a second for approval. Wait a minute, let me stop just a second. We actually are going to move another new business item, 070717, which is a request for consideration of an ABC 020 restaurant retail liquor license for Bartico Homewood LLC located at 1017 Oxmoor Road, requested by Melody Salter, our city clerk. We need to move that to a committee referral to public safety. Chair would ask for a motion to approve the amendment to the amended agenda for committee referral.
So moved.
All right, motion from Mr. White, second from Mr. Higginbotham. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that adds 0717. Now the chair would welcome a motion for approval of the committee referral agenda.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. White, second from Mr. Gwaltney. Any further discussion? There be none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that too is unanimous. All right, so we'll move on to other new business. 040717, request to set a public hearing and referral to the Special Issues Committee for a variance to the sign ordinance at 500 Woodcrest Place. Requested by Kim Wakefield, Greg Cobb, our BEZ department. This will go to Special Issues, and the public hearing will be set for July 24th, 2017 at 6 p.m. 050717, request to set a public hearing and referral to the Special Issues Committee for a variance to the sign ordinance at 1820 28th Avenue South, requested by Diane Foley, Greg Cobb, our BEZ department. Again, to Special Issues, and the public hearing will be set for July 24th, 2017 at 6 p.m. 060717, request to set a public hearing and referral to the Special Issues Committee for a variance to the sign ordinance at 234 Green Springs Highway, requested by Diane Foley, Greg Cobb, and our BEZ department. This public hearing will also be set for July 24th, 2017 at 6 p.m. All right, 080717, request for consideration of approval of vouchers for the period of June 26th through July 9th, 2017. This will be finance, and therefore we'll turn it over to Ms. Smith.
And I actually had the pleasure of looking at the vouchers for this period. It was my first time in a while, so I had to kind of get my feet back under me. I had a couple of questions. Of course, Melody answered them right away and satisfied with everything, so I would move to approve the vouchers for the period.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Ms. Smith. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Higginbotham. Any further questions or discussions? There being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's Resolution 17-113. Lastly, 100717, request to set a public hearing for a variance to the sign ordinance at 1745 Oxmoor Road, requested by Ryan, Stewart, and Greg Cobb, our BEZ folks. Public hearing will be set for July 24th, 2017 at 6 p.m. And that is a conclusion to our agenda, Mayor. All right, Mr. Gwaltney.
Glad to see all the smiling faces that are here tonight. Hope everybody had a good 4th of July. Besides that, I have nothing else.
Good. Mr. Higginbotham?
Nothing tonight, sure.
All right, Mr. Wolverton?
I'm still laughing inside about the young man that just came in to speak on his house condition. That made my night.
Isn't it great to serve our community and get entertained also on occasion?
We deserve it if we don't clean it up. All right.
Okay, let me ask some questions before I move on to these other four. We have some committees that need to be set.
I go first. I'm the first one here, Bruce.
Really?
I'm in the first chair.
You are.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you. I'm super excited about getting to set my meetings first, by the way. I told Walter, I said, if I'm chairing the next two meetings, I pick the time. Yeah, I'm chairing all the meetings, so I get to pick whatever time it happens. I'm going to set special issues for 5.
Good time.
Next week. We are going to have Ms. Bazemore in, and there's a bunch of items going on.
How much time would you request?
45 minutes. Yes. I'm sorry. I mean, there's like 12 items, and no, 45 is like being super optimistic. I'm just going to go ahead and say. I mean, y'all saw I'm good, but I don't know if I can do that.
You are good, though.
I'm fast. I can move.
So finance?
And
set
then
finance.
I'm going to set finance right after that for 5:45.
How much time will you need, assuming Mr. Jones?
He's going to be out
It's
again.
me.
Excuse me.
I
I don't know.
All right, you're going to be in charge. Mr. Jones, we're told, is going to be missing.
He's going to be out
Again?
again, yes, sir.
Again.
Yes, I'm in charge.
I know.
And I don't see
I'm really
a lot
disturbed
of-
by that, since I never miss meetings.
I see 2 items that were added to the agenda for finance, so I think I can probably do finance in 15 minutes.
Whoa.
I may be wrong, but I'm gonna
Well,
go.
We have that records retention policy that might take a little discussion, or I'm happy to carry it over for another meeting.
Let's carry that one over to the next meeting so Mr. Walter Jones can participate in that discussion.
Gotcha. Thank you for giving me a extra.
Give you a pass, yeah, that's right, give you another couple of weeks.
I'd like to interrupt her just a second. Mr. Wright, please do not take any lessons from her about how to throw the person who's not here under the bus in the future, okay?
We would never do that.
I understand. Anything else, Ms. Smith?
No, I think that is it for tonight.
Mr. White?
I am going to set P&D for Mr. Thames, so 6 o'clock? Is that?
Yep.
How much time does Mr. Thames need?
I think he only needs 15 minutes. I think he'll be
Okay.
fine with that. I'd just like to thank all the people that showed up for the hearing tonight about the sidewalks in the Triangle in Mayfair. We've had a long discussion about it, and I appreciate everyone's, as Mr. Gwaltney pointed out, everyone's passion on both sides of the issue. So that's people caring about what happens in Homewood is a good thing. So I appreciate it.
I agree.
I have a question though, who's setting public safety for Mr. McCluskey?
Mr. White is.
I'm doing that. Might as well, right?
That was my subtle reminder. We're just covering all
So I'll
things.
set public safety for 6:15.
Good. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Andrews?
I had my first meeting as the liaison to the Homewood Downtown Redevelopment Authority today, and it was wonderful and met a lot of really talented people. So just that was exciting, and I didn't know anyone in there except for the one that we just appointed, Thomas. And anyway, I enjoyed it very much. Also, last night, Peter and I were guests of the Hollywood Garden Club again, and we had a great meeting with them as well, and spent a lot of time with them, and I want to thank them for having us. So.
Good. Mr. Wright?
Thank you. Since I'm P&D at the end of the line here, I'll be setting it for 11:30 at night.
You're not P&D. You were P&D last term. Your Public Works. P&D has already been set before you.
Excuse me, Public Works.
Yeah.
I'll be
Public
setting
Works.
it for 11:30 at night. I do think it's at 6:30. Is that where I am?
Public safety, I don't know how long.
I only have one item. I believe you said it's.
I think there's a couple,
Yeah, there were a couple that we carried over.
and we moved that one, the.
15 minutes should be
Yeah,
fine.
15 minutes will be fine.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to set it for 6:30?
Yes, I would be.
Have you got anything else, Mr. Wright?
You know, I do have one item. I was, to thank everyone, and particularly my fellow council members here, and all of you all, but particularly here in wards 4 and 5 for a lot of hard work. And I know there's a lot of people that are pleased and some that are not pleased. And it's a lot of hard work tonight, and so grateful that we do have such enthusiasm in this community, and to see that turnout, and people do care. And as someone aptly pointed out, it's a wonderful thing that those are high, very high on our problem list of dealing with decorative intersections, if you will. And I really just wanted to point out one other thing. I don't know if you all noticed, but we had the other issue today with a public hearing involving this office building changing from C2 to C1. And I just distinctly noticed the two sides of that issue, in which it was going to C2 and they dealt with Vanessa, and it went back to C1 and changed the definitions, and they communicated with one another, and they aptly fixed the problem, both sides. And I noticed the two of them going over to the other side to shake hands in a cordial manner. And it just, communication is so key, and it was just refreshing to see that in our community after a tough committee meeting tonight. So
Yes.
I just wanted to make note of that for purposes of showing the really strong and good side of our community. And with that, nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Any issue where you have two sides of a debate, and those two don't seem to be able to agree, always leads to some hard feelings. Our hope and expectation is, as Mr. Wright said, that these folks can put that aside and move on for the good of Homewood. And with that, I look forward to 2 weeks from now when our young 22-year-old comes back and tells us some more things. That could be really interesting. And with that, we will stand adjourned.
But I want you to tell us, we get it cleaned up later.